What is a little bombshell your therapist dropped in one of your sessions that completely changed your outlook? I was in therapy for a while, working through some personal issues and trying to understand why I kept hitting roadblocks in my relationships. I felt stuck, like no matter how hard I tried, things just weren't changing. My therapist, who I trusted deeply by this point, had always been patient, gentle, and insightful. But one session in particular hit me like a ton of bricks. We had been discussing a pattern I noticed in my life, a tendency to push people away right when they started to get close. I couldn't help but wonder if I was sabotaging myself without even realizing it. It had happened before in friendships and romantic relationships. I would start to feel something genuine, but then something would shift and I'd pull back. It was almost like I was afraid of being hurt, but more so, afraid of being too vulnerable, of letting anyone in. I had been talking about this for a while, and just when I thought we were going to go through another round of trying to pinpoint the cause, my therapist said something that completely took me off guard. She casually mentioned, it sounds like you have a fear of intimacy. Not because you don't want to be loved, but because you've never fully allowed yourself to be loved. You keep people at arm's length, not just because you're scared of rejection, but because you're scared of what it means to truly trust someone. Her words hung in the air, and it was like a light bulb went off in my head. It hit me so hard, I almost froze. The realization that I had been denying myself a deeper connection because of my own defense mechanisms was shocking. For years, I thought I had simply been protecting myself from pain, from past hurt. But in that moment, I saw that I had been keeping myself from the very thing I needed the most, true emotional intimacy. I wasn't just guarding myself from the risk of heartbreak, I was avoiding the depth of connection that made relationships so meaningful in the first place. The more I thought about it, the more I realized how much I had been holding back in all areas of my life. I had been conditioned to view vulnerability as a weakness, something to be cautious of. Yet, here I was, surrounded by people who loved me, and I still couldn't let them in fully. I had spent so much time building walls, not realizing that the very walls I thought were protecting me were also keeping me isolated. That session didn't just change my outlook on relationships, it changed the way I viewed myself. It wasn't just about fear of intimacy, it was about allowing myself to be seen, to be known, to trust that I was worthy of love and connection. It felt like a shift, a small revelation that didn't necessarily fix everything right away, but started a process of truly letting go of my defenses and starting to allow people in. Since that day, I've worked on opening myself up more. It's not always easy, and there are still moments where I catch myself trying to push people away, but I've come to understand that intimacy isn't something to be feared, it's something to be embraced. That one session with my therapist completely changed the way I viewed my relationships, and ultimately, it changed how I saw myself.